Negative signs can feel like traps. Multiply wrong, and bam, you just lost points on the easiest question on your exam. Whether it's multiplying or dividing, there's very simple rules that make it all click. Let me show you how to master negative numbers fast. Now, multiplying or dividing with negative numbers is all about the sign rules. But before we get into that, I want to go into why the sign rules work. So let's start off with an example of multiplication. Let's say we have -3 times 2. We have a positive and a negative together. Now, I'm going to explain this in a way using the fundamentals of multiplication. Now, multiplication can be seen as repeated addition, meaning -3 times -2 can just be seen as adding -3 two times. So let's do that. -3 plus -3. Now, in the previous video that I covered, we covered adding and subtracting negative numbers. And the rule is if you could take this positive and this negative right here and just make it into a minus sign. Now, if we do that, we get -6. And if you look, 3 times 2 is 6. And all we have to do is just carry the negative sign. And this is the first rule. A positive times a negative will equal a negative. A negative times a positive will also equal a negative. And this is how it works. It's through repeated addition. Now, if we do another example to prove our theory, let's say we have 5 times -10. Now, we know the rule, a positive times a negative is a negative. And 5 times 10 is just 50. Just simple multiplication. But if we wanted to explain why this equals again, we can look at it. So we can look at -10 times 5 is just adding 10 5 times. So let's do that. -10 plus -10 plus -10 plus -10 plus -10. Here we get -10 minus -10 minus 10 minus 10 minus 10, and this will all equal -50, which is what we get up here. And that is why this rule works, and it's the quickest way to do these problems. If the signs are opposite, if we have a positive, negative, negative, positive, the signs are opposite. Therefore, the sign will always be negative. Now let's go into another example, a little different. Now we have something like this, -4 times -3. Now we don't have opposite signs. We have same signs. So what is this answer? Well, we know 4 times 3 is 12. So we got that part down. But what is the sign? Is it negative or is it positive? I'll let you pause on the video here to see if you can figure it out. If you can figure it out, comment it down below why it is. All right. So it's actually positive. Now, let me explain why. So often how it works is, let's use a different example. We'll use -1, and we're going to keep multiplying it by different numbers. We'll start off with 3. Now, we covered before, a positive times a negative is a negative. So we know -1 times 3 is -3. Let's keep going down. -1 times 2, we know that's -2. -1 times 1, we know that's -1. -1 times 0, 0. See how when we decrease the number we're multiplying, we're slowly and slowly getting it to 0? But now if we do -1 times -1, this is now +1. How is that so? To keep the pattern consistent, the only value that makes sense is to make it a +1. It's another explanation is multiplying by -1 means the opposite of. So if we have something like -1 times -4, you can look at it as multiplying by the opposite of -4, which is just +4. And now it's the same thing up here. If we have -4 times -3, think about it. We're just multiplying -4 by the opposite of -3, which is just now 12. So this is why it's a thing. Two negatives make a positive, and this is why. You're basically undoing the negative sign. So a negative times a negative will flip twice, which lands you back at a positive. And that's basically how it is. So here are the rules, official. Positive times negative equals negative. Negative times positive, I'm just shorting this, also negative. Positive times positive, positive, same sign. Negative times negative, positive. Look, see how these are opposites? And these are same. A quick way to determine is if they have the same sign, like negative, negative, positive, positive, it will be a positive. If they have opposite signs, positive, negative, negative, positive, then it's always going to be negative. This is a quick shortcut and very key if you want to do these problems quick. I just wanted to explain the logic behind why these rules exist and why it makes sense. So now let's go into division. We just covered the rules for multiplication. Now the best part about this is that in division, it is the exact same thing. If we have -3 over 3, this will just equal -1. It's the same logic behind multiplication. If you have the opposite signs, it'll be a negative. Another example, -6 divided by -3, that's just +2. It's the same thing. If you divide a negative by a negative, you'll also make a positive. If you divide a positive by a negative, you'll get negative. If you divide a negative by a positive, you'll also get negative. If you divide by a positive, you'll also get positive. It's the exact same logic. We could go through some more examples just to be sure. If you want to work these out for yourself to test the knowledge you just learned, you can do it right now. Okay, now that we're back, let's solve. So we see that there are two negatives here. Sorry, let me just circle a different color. We see there are two negatives. That means it's the same sign. Therefore, we know to our shortcut, it'll make a positive already. Now what's 100 times 2? It's just 200. Now let's look. We have no sign here, which means it's automatically positive. Here, and then we have a negative. So we have opposite signs. So we know this is going to automatically be negative. And now we have 6 times 3, 18. The answer is -18. And now we have here our division. We have -40 divided by 2. We can see there are opposite signs, negative and a positive. So we know the answer is negative. And 40 divided by 2 is just 20. Overall, -20. Now we have -49 divided by -7. We have two negatives, which means same sign. So all we do is 49 divided by 7, and therefore we get 7, +7. And that's pretty much it. I hope these are the rules you really want to cover. I'll just asterisk them one more time. You can screenshot them if you want, but you want to commit this to memory and always make sure why. I always want to explain why why we do, because I don't want to just say, oh, a positive times a negative is a negative. I want to explain why that is. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.